Hello, we are here today to show you how to make this little house step by step. I have been making these houses since 1972 when I saw the cover of a magazine showing one that had been completed. And here's the picture from the magazine. I cut out the recipe and I've been using it ever since. This little house has advantages because it's small enough for a child to decorate without losing their attention on it. And it is completely edible, and it is also very securely put together so it will not fall apart. We put it together using caramelized sugar, and that will keep it very safe. The video will focus on 3 areas: a review of the ingredients that are essential for a perfect dough, rolling out of the dough, and assembling the house itself. We must create a perfect trio of fat, sugar, and molasses. It will create a silky dough that is easy to roll. It asks for parquet margarine that was invented, very popular in 1972 when this recipe was written. It's available still in the Safeway, cuddled up between all the tub soft margarines that are popular now. If you can't find parquet, then what you want to look at is the Crisco, the gold Crisco, and it doesn't need refrigeration, so it's usually over by the spices in the Safeway. The sugar that you need is the best brown sugar, and it has a little gingerbread boy there just to remind you that you're picking up the right product. The most important product of all, of course, is the molasses. And we have 2 types here that we recommend, one or the other of these. They are very, very dark molasses with a lot of flavor. And we have found that the dark molasses mixes with the sugar and the fat to make a marvelous dough that is easy to roll and very pliable and can be treated like Play-Doh, actually, not like pastry. Sadly, the fancy molasses, which is another product, is really not suitable for this recipe, in my experience. Before we start rolling out the dough, let's have a look at the templates. They are all made from cereal box cardboard. And there are 6 house pieces. We've got the biggest one is the roof piece. Then we have a front and a back. And then we have 2 sides, one with a window and one without, and a door. We also have templates for a thing called a dough rail. And this is just a fancy name for 2 stacks of cardboard that ride on either side of the rolling pin to give you the correct thickness of your dough. The instructions for the dough rails are on the template itself, so you know how many to cut out and how to put them together. Now let's move on to the rollout. Our dough has been chilled, and it has been sitting on the counter for an hour to warm up. And so we will now cut it into 4 equal pieces. You will see that I have a serrated knife to use for this, and the reason is that it works its way through the dough as I saw it across, and it will not drag on the dough and give us, you see, nice smooth edges. And we'll get the 4th. So here's our 4 and our 4th piece here. Now, the reason we do this is so that we cut one of each of our largest pieces out of one of these balls of dough. So we make them into balls like that. And we will set 3 of them aside, and we will just work with one of the large pieces. Okay, now here's the short story. We will roll out the dough while it remains on the parchment, using the dough rails on each side of the rolling pin to give us the correct thickness. We will then deal with the flattened piece there, and we will use one of our large templates, and we will use a sharp knife to cut into that and pull away the excess. Then we will pick up the piece in our parchment and put it onto a cookie sheet and put it into the oven. So here are the steps. You might wish to treat yourself to this Robin Hood Easy Blend flour for this step. It is granular, and so it's not dusty, and it sprinkles very easily. So you see, we'll sprinkle our parchment and then we'll sprinkle the top like this. Now here is the rolling pin that I'm going to use. It is a weighted rolling pin, quite heavy, and you need only push it gently through the dough, and it will move very, very easily. Lightweight wooden rolling pins require much more skill. These are the easiest way to get a good result. I do remember my husband's mother using a ginger ale bottle. Yes, they were of glass in those days, but she was rolling out pastry and not Play-Doh, and it worked fine for her. However, for most of us, the weighted one is the easiest thing and something we can manage. So as you can see, we're rolling along here to get this from side to side, and we just put a little more. Make sure that it's moving nicely. There, you see we have our guides here, and we know exactly when we have the proper thickness. All right, so we'll set our rolling pin aside, and now this is the template we're going to use. It is the most difficult, actually, with the lovely little window that it has. So we'll put it on there, and we will not use this serrated knife. We will use a straight knife like this to cut the pieces. And you just come down with this. Be careful that you don't cut the parchment. Okay, now we lift away all of the extra dough. Just pull it away like that and put it into a little pile. We'll use the tip of the knife to get this little window correct, and then just flip it out like that. There. Okay. And this we will pull out here. All right, and set that aside. So take it off. Now, there is our house. So now this is the trick. You pick it up. Now here's our cookie sheet here, and it's done a lot of cookies and other things in its day, but it doesn't matter because we simply lift this up and put it onto the cookie sheet like that. And then we can put it straight into the oven. There, we've got a second one here. Now again, we will flour this, and then it can move around as it's being kneaded. And let's just flatten it a bit and put a little more flour on top, and then my trusty rolling pin, again, we'll just move it across like that and just take it easy, very gently. We do have to keep pushing the the parchment down, but if you roll them out on the parchment. And you can see how it's moving quite nicely on either side, but we'll put our dough rails there just so we can keep it in mind. And you roll right to the end of the piece so you don't have a bump across here. You roll just very, very carefully and slowly. And how forgiving this dough is. It just moves so nicely across the parchment. Doesn't stick. All right. And there we are. Just center it there. So there's a little indentation there, and we'll just move it up to that. Okay, perfect. All right, now again, the same things. We'll move our dough rails aside and put your hand over it, and just to keep it steady, and just cut away. And roll up your little pieces of dough. Well, large pieces of dough, actually. Yes. This is probably the largest cookie that you will ever make in your life. One roof, but you need two. You need another one, and then you need a back as well, but the exact same technique. So just pick those off, and then again, pick it up by the sides, and you can, grasp them nicely. The parchment is very tough, and you put it on, and there it's ready for the oven. Now we're going to cut the 3 little pieces, the 2 sides and the door. And looking at this ball here, you would think that that is a nice fresh ball from the quarters that we cut, but in actual fact what it is an aggregation of all of the scraps that we took off from the 4 big ones that we did, just to show you how well this dough can roll and re-roll and keep inventing itself. So what we'll do is put a little flour on the bottom there, and a little more on top, and then flatten it. Just flatten it. Move it around a bit just for nothing. And then we'll put our dough rails on either side, and we will roll this out again carefully. There we are. Now if we look, it's absolutely flat because we've gone right to the edges. And there, and it matches perfectly with our dough rails, so we know it's the correct thickness. Good for us. Okay, so now when you put the 2 small ones down, be sure that you leave enough room so that you can cut around them. We don't have to cramp them on, and then the little door can go right at the bottom. So that is how that should look. So again, we'll just cut them and peel it off, all the extra off, and make another little pile. So there they are. Now we'll just peel off the template here. A little sticky there. All right, now the same thing as we did before. Pick them up and move them right over there. And so there they are. Again, all ready to go into the oven. All right, well, we're finished with rolling. And what we're going to do now is to just massage this. This is all of the scraps that we've put together. And we're going to turn out some little cookies that you can use as just snacks and enjoy this. So you just pull it off the end and put them on the parchment like that. And then you don't even have to be too fussy about making them round or making them anything. Just get them onto the parchment like that. It gives you an idea, and it's just really, really quick, and it's amazing how many you get. That one's a bit small. We'll put them back and get them out here again. And these you put into a 375 oven for 6 minutes. They're just great to crumble over ice cream. Okay, now we'll just put a fork mark through them like that, a little kind of a signature. And so we end up with no dough left. They're all made into cookies, one shape or another. Thank you for watching my section. I hope you enjoyed it. And now it's time to turn it over to my husband, who will show you how to put the house together.
Hello everybody, I'm Jeff Bird, and I'm going to show you now how to fasten together the pieces of the house that you've just made. Now here are the pieces. Here are the 2 roof pieces, the 2 end pieces, the side pieces, and the door. Now during the cooking process, the pieces often puff up and they get out of line, and so they aren't nice and straight like they used to be. So I find that in order to make the house go together easily, I like to trim the edges, some of the edges that are going to be glued together, and to make it a lot easier, and it turns out a much more accurate and easier assembly. So put the pieces, start with the side pieces, you put them together face to face the way they're going to be in the house. Just lay them down on a cutting board. Now to trim the edges, I have a little hobby saw here. Now you might be able to pick one up at Michael's or any of the hardware stores have them sometimes. But if you don't have one of these, you can also use a utility knife, a razor knife. A bread knife, a serrated bread knife really doesn't work very well for this, so I suggest you don't even try that. So just lay the pieces down. Now this doesn't have to be exact. Close is close enough. Any of the imperfections or things are kind of a little bit out of whack, the sugar that we're using to fasten it together will take that up. So don't worry if it's not exact. So I just do it with an eyeball. I don't use a square or anything like that. Just eyeball the edge like this, and I'll turn that off, and get it to take out the imperfection in the side, and then just make a mark on it with your saw or with the razor knife, and just trim that off so that it comes out fairly square. And like I said, close is close enough. And you can eat the square pieces if you like. That's one side. Turn this one around. And do the same on the other side, just to take out so that the 2 sides are approximately the same. The gingerbread saw also does a good job. So, and that's close enough. So the end pieces, the side pieces, and the end pieces to take the roof are all you have to trim. So these 2, put them face to face, the front and the back facing each other like they'll be, and do the same with them. This one is important because these 2 pieces often turn out to be quite a different shape when they've actually been baked, and then the roof pieces tend to be kind of distorted. So if you trim them off, it takes out that imperfection. And just trim them so they're both the same. That's one part. Actually, the knife is turning out to be, in this case, easier than using the saw. There we are. That's the trimming part all done. So now we come to the gluing together. Now here I have a small saucepan on the stove and just a cupful of flour, just regular granulated white sugar, and you heat it up fairly gently, and as you see, it begins to melt. And once it begins to melt, use a wooden spoon to stir it around. And I would say start out slowly with this because it can all of a sudden start to burn. And so you don't want to have that happen. So we'll get it rolling here. Okay, now the sugar is pretty much all melted. You see it goes into a nice brown color. It will get darker as the time goes on, but keep stirring it until all the lumps are out. Now this, as you can imagine, it works really well to fasten these things together, but it is very hot and it's very sticky, so it's quite dangerous, and you certainly don't want to get it on yourself. And the whole exercise here from now on is actually quite messy, and we'll slop bits of sugar all over the place, but don't worry about that because it comes off pretty easily at the end. It's just we're using a bit of soap and water. But keep the children away or anybody else who might be not appreciate enough how dangerous this is when it's melted hot sugar. So I'll turn that down a bit now. I usually play with the heat a bit, and once the stuff is melted, then turn the heat right down. You'll find as you go it may start to thicken up, so then turn the heat back up again, but you don't want to let the heat get away with you, and it'll start to smoke, and so once it gets to be too hot, so just keep an eye on it. Now I use, to put the sugar on and glue it together, I use a pastry brush. This is about 1.5 inches or 2 inch, works well. Now you may have one of these brushes which is made of silicone rubber. Now they're common in kitchens nowadays, but they don't really work very well for this sort of thing. So I suggest you don't try and use one of those. They're way too flexible. They don't actually work very well. But a regular pastry brush with nylon bristles is the right thing to do. Now, so the first thing, now you have to work really fast with this because as soon as it comes out of the frying pan, it begins to harden, and so it's only a few seconds that you have to be able to use it. Now we're about to start to glue the pieces together, but during the course of the baking or the trimming or whatever, often you will break one of these pieces. So don't worry about that. So usually it's this side window piece that breaks and it snaps off in the bottom. So if that happens, no problem. Just take a piece of parchment paper, put it down on the counter, and then just dip the ends into the melted sugar, quickly drop them down and squish them together, and that quickly fixes it. Any cracks like this will be covered up by the icing and the candies and whatever people put on the outside when they actually make up the final pieces. So just peel it off the parchment paper, and I usually just trim off the bottom so that it sits square again. And it only takes a few seconds before the pieces the glue is hardened enough so we can continue from there. So now to start the fast, I usually start with the end piece. We take one of the side pieces like this, and the end piece, just dip this end in the melted sugar and quickly fasten it together and stick it just inside the edge of the end piece. And then we do the same with the other side. Dip it in the sugar, quickly stick it up against the edge. Now you have to handle it very, very carefully at this stage. We'll reinforce it with extra sugar later, but at this stage you just have to get them to hold. And then, now this is a bit more tricky. We take the other end piece and we have to very quickly paint the sugar onto the inside ends and stick it before it hardens so that it doesn't stick anymore. I'll just dab it on there and on here and stick it together like that. And then give it a little time to set. Now, very carefully, I tip it over, wait long enough so that that sugar has dried. Now, this is the reinforcing part, so we'll then quickly just bring this over to you near the stove and very quickly paint on some on the inside, on both sides of the seam, and this will give it the strength that it needs. Whoop, it's starting to fall apart on me. Oh, my repair job, I didn't give it enough time to harden up before I worked with it. It's okay, just stick some more sugar on there and on there and press it together. And paint on a little reinforcing. That one I need to let sit for a little while so it will get the necessary strength before I can move it again. Okay, now we have now that that side's done, we will. Now you get lots of sugar gathering up. You just push it out of the way. It's very messy. So then we carefully tilt the house for the other side. Bring it over to the sugar, and quickly paint on the reinforcing on the inside of the seam. There we go. Tip it back up on its base. And there we are. Now, the next phase is the roof. So what I do first of all is kind of take the two roof pieces and I just dry fit them, just get an idea of where they come together at the top. So in that case, it's just a little bit higher than the peak of the roof. So I will just start with this one, and I will then quickly paint on a strip of sugar on each side here about where the edge pieces are. So we'll start that again. The sugar is still quite liquidy, so very quickly paint on a bunch of sugar and some more. Get first a base, then go back and refresh it. And again, and then very quickly slide it on about where you estimated it would come, and just carefully press it gently to make the two sides seal. And then we turn it around and do the same with the other piece. Right about there. So that the two roof pieces just touch in the middle. They usually have a gap on the other end, but we want to put a little bit of reinforcing at that point as well. So we'll do that one the same as the first piece. Paint on some more sugar. Be generous with the sugar and quickly press that one into place. And within a few seconds, it hardens right up. Now, I carefully tip it onto its roof with the bottom near the sugar. Turn that off because it's starting to bubble, getting too hot. And then I reach inside and I reinforce the joint like I did with the side pieces, just so that you have enough strength so the roof doesn't fall off. And of course this is, along with the house, the sugar is all very edible, and so it makes a perfect medium for fastening everything together. And turn it around and lay it down on its roof again and reinforce the inside. And then put a little bit in the middle of the roof at the top on the inside to join those pieces together to give it a little bit of extra strength. And now back on its feet again. Now, here the last piece is the door, and it goes like that. Now, I usually trim this inside bit on the door just to give it a bit more surface area. So just slice off at a 45-degree angle. Again, just eyeballing it is perfectly good enough until you get the right angle. And then just dip the door into the sugar, get a good, and then stick it against it like that. And there we are. And there is your gingerbread house, fastened together. Turn the heat off on the saucepan, and you just need to, when it cools down, put it in the sink, fill it with water, and let it sit for a while, and then renew the water every once in a while, and this will slowly dissolve, and your pastry brush, which will harden up into a solid brick of sugar, but it too will, you just stir the sugar and the water mix around, and it will slowly dissolve, and the whole thing will ultimately be clean again. So there it is. So good luck with your gingerbread houses. These will all be covered in icing and candies and everything else anyone can think of to stick on it, so you won't even see any of this material that actually joins it together. Thanks for watching. Bye now.